So I received a letter here from Costco. It's actually from a subscriber that shared this letter with me in an email that they received from Costco as a Costco employee, and more specifically as a Costco union employee. And we're going to get into this letter here in just a moment. But before we do, I just wanted to share with you guys some additional information about unions and the workers in the unions. As we have an article here, Starbucks is raising pay, but only for workers at non-union stores. And this is probably going to become a growing trend as unions continue to form and the companies and employers are in disagreement with the collective bargaining efforts of the unions. And here it says, among the reasons more than 200 Starbucks stores have unionized since last fall is workers' desire for better pay and benefits. As of August 1st, Starbucks is rolling out pay increases for store employees who've been with the company for at least 2 years, but this is going to exclude workers at unionized stores. Starbucks says that it's legally bound to exclude unionized workers. And it's quoted here that once a store unionizes, no changes to benefits are allowed without good faith collective bargaining. And that was from a Starbucks spokesperson. So there's a little bit of reading between the lines here. So, it says that once a store unionizes, no changes to benefits are allowed without good faith collective bargaining. And it almost seems like what Starbucks is doing in this particular situation is they are limiting the changes in benefits, especially those that are improvements over what once was. Where, it's kind of like saying, well, if you've unionized, if you're part of a union, if you want to, create a workers union for Starbucks, that's cool. But we're going to, as a company, we're going to give better pay and better benefits and better work conditions to non-union workers, kind of as a slap in the face to those in the unions. But it says here, labor advocates say Starbucks' move is the latest in a series of tactics intended to discourage more stores from organizing, including firing pro-union workers and shuttering unionized stores. So basically, if you're non-unionized, but you're pro-union, then potentially you could get fired. So that it's the chance and the likelihood of you forming a union and pushing for that is reduced to zero. And then we've also had reports of stores being closed down across the country for safety concerns, despite the store's profitability. But these are probably also stores that would have been a high likelihood of becoming unionized, if not already unionized. So Starbucks is kind of taking a stand through a little bit of a backdoor play here. And basically, this quote here says that they're misrepresenting what the law says in a way that obviously is intended to make the tactic appear legal, when in fact, I would say it's not. And this is from a John Logan, professor and labor historian at San Francisco State University. That's the Starbucks corporate using the quote unquote laws of collective bargaining in these unions against them to prevent them from having better pay and better benefits without having prior negotiations. And then providing this to the non-union workers, almost creating like some animosity amongst the unionized workers to want to maybe not be in a union. But the question is it legal for Starbucks to exclude unionized workers from new benefits? And if you guys are still watching, if you're still here with me, this is going to tie back into the Costco letter that was received, the email, a little bit of a boots on the ground insider intel from Costco as they're union, their Teamsters workers union, is threatening a strike. It's like 17,000 members of this union that work for Costco, and then it's like 120,000 collectively in the Teamsters union across multiple different stores or multiple different businesses and companies. And I wanted to give you the background information on this to help better understand the letter that was sent from the CEO of Costco. So the question is it legal for Starbucks to exclude unionized workers from new benefits? And it says here that it's true that after employees vote to unionize, U.S. labor law does not allow companies from making changes to pay or benefits without first negotiating with the union. The idea is that forcing companies to maintain the status quo after employees unionize helps prevent them from retaliating by reducing pay or benefits or from unilaterally making changes as a way of signaling to employees that the union doesn't have any real power. So, quick breakdown there. The idea is that forcing companies to maintain the status quo after employees unionizes helps prevent them from retaliating by reducing pay or benefits. But in this case, Starbucks is actually increasing pay and benefits to those not in the union. And the unilateral changes that is mentioned here would mean that whatever Starbucks or whatever any company did for the union, they would do for everyone else, ultimately making it so that the union was kind of worthless. And, the workers in the union were paying dues for pretty much no reason. But Starbucks' argument is complicated by the fact that Workers United, the union representing Starbucks stores, explicitly told the company in a letter dated July 15th that it waives any objections to Starbucks providing unionized workers with the same improvements to pay or benefits that it offers to employees in non-unionized stores. Starbucks, and this is a quote here, Starbucks is permitted by law to offer these benefits to employees at unionized stores with a union's agreement. And this is from the Workers United International President Lynn Fox. But basically, after that, Starbucks declined to comment on the union's willingness to greenlight the benefits. But basically, Starbucks is using the union laws and rules against them to kind of negate the unionization of these stores and the employees joining the union. Starbucks, obviously is not pro-union, and the unions they are in place to help make sure employees are treated fairly and paid fairly and everything else like that. But ultimately, the unions are in the news right now. We have big stories of the unions in the news right now, specifically with the railroad union, and primarily Warren Buffett and Berkshire Hathaway's BNSF. We've got Union Pacific. We've got Norfolk Southern, CSX, Kansas City. There's so many railroad companies, and the union workers that allow these companies to operate and these trains to run and continue to move freight and continue to help our supply chain move along, as they're responsible for at least 30% of transportation of goods through rail before they, this is from the ports before they even reach any semi-truck, tractor-trailer, distribution center, warehouse, or anything like that, or the stores or anything like that. But there's a huge push there as the unions are demanding back pay and compensation for inflation, and a possible threat of pretty much just locking out and shutting down the railroads and just wiping out our supply chain completely, because it'll have a huge effect. So we're still waiting. We're supposed to have some sort of update by August 15th as far as what's going to happen with the Railroad Workers Union and that possible strike. And then after the 15th, there's a 30-day cool-off period. If the negotiations are not successful after that 30-day cool-off period, then they would have the right and legal ability to strike. But then, you also have the possibility of President Biden stepping in and the U.S. government taking control of the railroads so that they can maintain operations and stay functional. But no lie, I mean, even if that were the case, that's like it's a backup plan. But that'd be like saying I'm going to go step into Starbucks and help them maintain operations if they shut down. No, I'm not, because I don't know how to make these drinks. I don't know how to run their computer systems. I don't know any of that. So if you think that the U.S. government is going to step in and take over this railroad system and it's actually going to be effective and, not see, all right, let's just say they're 50% effective. Well, that still means that if the railroads are responsible for 30% of transportation of freight and goods on rail, if they're only 50% effective, we'll still have a 15% reduction. So I just don't see that being a viable option. And I think it's going to be best for amicable solution to be met so that we don't see a railroad workers union strike. But I want to get into this email from Costco. So basically, I had to blur out some information here because I don't want to share the person's specific information and put them in any sort of bind or anything like that. I do appreciate them sending this to me, and so we can get this information out there so everybody's aware of what's going on and what could possibly be coming, so we can be better prepared for any sort of delay or hiccup. Because if Costco were to see a strike, at the end of the day, it will translate into at least some food shortages as a result of the people who shop at these specific Costco's won't have the ability to shop there anymore if there are no employees and they're on strike. Therefore, those locations will not have food to be sold to customers. Then those customers will then have to shop somewhere else, increasing the demand for other stores nearby or, as close as they can get, hurting those stores' supply, which would then make those stores' supply deplete sooner and quicker and faster than normal, thus creating food shortages in those stores until they can ramp up their inventories, which they may or may not be able to do. And then at the same time, if that happens, I'm pretty sure I'd be willing to bet that we would see some inflation and price increases and adjustments for the rise in demand in the immediate limited supply as a result. But we'll just go through this letter here so we can see what the Costco had to say. This is from Craig Jelinek. He's the CEO of Costco. And this is dated August 8th. Sorry, it took me a couple days to bring it to you guys. But it says, "Dear Costco employees, I'm writing with an update on Costco's discussions with the Teamsters union about the new contract for Costco employees who work in union locations. The union recently posted some misleading information about the discussions, and so I thought it might be useful to offer my perspective. As you probably know, the Teamsters union has a role in less than 10% of Costco's U.S. warehouses. This limited relationship with the union dates back to the beginning of the Price Company in the 1970s and 1980s. As Costco has grown and the percentage of union locations has decreased over time, we've nonetheless continued to respect the relationship. Because Costco has the best employees in the retail industry, our wages and benefits have always been the best as well. In recent years, there's been increasing competition from other retailers on starting wages, but not one matches Costco on total compensation, wages, extra checks, benefits, retirement plan contributions. In March, when we updated the Costco employee agreement, 90% of our U.S. employees received significant increases in wages, extra checks, premiums for certain positions, and other benefits. Because we didn't want Costco employees in union locations to fall behind, we proposed similar increases in the union contracts. Surprisingly, the union recommended a vote against the proposal, and ultimately, less than 30% of eligible employees actually voted. And the majority of those who voted followed the union's recommendation and rejected the proposal. In July, Costco increased top of sale wages yet again for the 90% of our employees covered by the employee agreement. With the March and July changes to wages, premiums, and extra checks and other benefits, Costco's long tenured employees who were already highly compensated by industry standards increased their compensation by thousands of dollars. Because we still had no agreement with the union, Costco employees in the union locations fell further behind their peers. During the first week of August, we met again with union representatives in a further attempt by Costco to get employees their overdue increases. During the meetings, to our continuing surprise, the union again rejected Costco's proposal and said it's preparing for some sort of work stoppage. We think this threat is counterproductive to say the least. Still, as before, we're committed to respect this relationship with the union. And so, at the union's request, our next step is to engage with an outside mediator to try to come to a resolution. And this goes on to the second page of the letter. And it says here, I'm sure that this situation is frustrating to Costco employees who work in union locations. Your compensation increases were due months ago, and we think you deserve them. Unfortunately, due to labor law rules, we haven't been allowed to extend these increases to you without the consent of the union. I always say that Costco employees are the best in the industry, and we believe our overall compensation reflects this, particularly for our long tenured employees. We think Costco employees who work in union locations deserve the same increases their peers received months ago, and Costco is trying hard to make that happen. If the opportunity comes again to vote on a contract proposal, please do so. Thank you for all you do for Costco. Signed, Craig Jelinek. And so we got a lot to unpack here on this letter. But ultimately, it's, their Costco CEO is making a statement here to the employees, all employees, union and non-union, but this is specifically directed towards the union employees, saying that they've already made increases for non-union workers, which is similar to Starbucks and what they've done as an attempt to kind of, you know, highlight how the union may not be the best option, the best choice for employees. However, Costco even goes on to say that they want to respect the relationship, and it's only a 10%. They're only accounting for less than 10% of Costco's U.S. warehouse employees. But at the end of the day, they are saying that the unions are not accepting Costco's proposals or offers for increases. And you have to wonder, is it Costco not delivering and providing enough for the union workers? Or is it those who manage the unions and are heading up these negotiations? Are they kind of maybe a little too greedy in what they want? Because ultimately they're gonna get their cut first, and then it goes to the employees. And if Costco is offering to the union plenty for the employees, but it's not enough for the union's profit margin, then maybe that's kind of stalling these negotiations and possibly presenting this opportunity for them to create this work stoppage that Costco says is going to be counterproductive. But at the same time, Costco, similar to Starbucks, and granted, these may be slightly different labor laws as the unions are concerned. I'm not an expert on labor laws and unions, but if it is similar to the situation of Starbucks, can Costco not just give these increases to the union workers as well versus trying to leverage the collective bargaining and negotiations and agreements requirement to automatically increase their pay and their benefits? Is Costco kind of taking the same role and position as Starbucks and saying, we would love to give you more, but we can't because it's not approved yet? However, we're going to have to continue to monitor this situation and see how this plays out, see what comes of it. Hopefully, it's not going to be a work stoppage. Hopefully, it's not going to be any sort of interruption in our food supply and any other goods that are, transported to these Costco's from these warehouses. Maybe this work stoppage would only be limited to the warehouses, and maybe Costco could, even if it were to occur, they can divert and redirect some shipments and deliveries from other non-unionized warehouses to these stores so that they don't end up getting shut down, locked out, or wiped out of inventory altogether. But if anybody watching is a Costco employee, if anybody watching is a union worker, if anybody has any additional information that they can share on this particular subject and scenario and what's going on and what's likely to occur and some of the talks that are going on, please do comment below. If you want to send me an email, my email's in the description. If you want to be anonymous, that's fine. If you want to be, your name shared, that's fine too. I just want to make sure that everybody's getting some accurate, up to date information that is going to be helpful in preparing for what is coming. Hopefully, we can prepare for some sort of agreement and a successful negotiation between Costco and the Teamsters union, and we don't see a shutdown. But if not, then we do need to be prepared, especially those, I believe, in the California area, which is mostly going to be, I think this is mostly going to affect California. I don't think it says it here in this letter, but I think it's going to mostly affect California. But be prepared just in case you are a Costco union worker and you're not maybe necessarily aware that the Teamsters union isn't in agreement with Costco, and you could possibly be out of work temporarily or for the foreseeable future. Who knows? And then your pay is interrupted because this planned work stoppage includes you as a union employee, or because you're part of the supply chain and you make deliveries to Costco, and then the warehouse shuts down because of a work stoppage and you can't make deliveries anymore. That hurts your business. Or you're a restaurant owner and you rely on Costco for supplies and foods and ingredients, and then they don't have them because of the work stoppage. And you're just a regular shopper, consumer, member. You have to be prepared and planning for what could possibly happen if there were to be a strike and a work stoppage because of the inability for the Teamsters union and Costco to reach an agreement on the negotiations for increased pay and benefits. So if anybody has any info that they can share that would be helpful to this, I would greatly appreciate it. And I'm sure the community and the family would appreciate it as well. I'll bring you guys another update as soon as I can. You guys be safe. Take care, and I'll see you soon.